Aw, shit. Here we go again. This is a continuation of my previous video here. Watch it first to understand where I'm coming from. So what's the difference from then to now? Well, now I've dumped significantly more hours into Starfield and have finally seen nearly everything it has to offer. So do some of my concerns get addressed the farther we get into it? Does logistics become viable? Does it get better? Well, I'm here to tell you that it No, I'm just kidding. The story turned out to be just fine. The characters never warmed up to me, and once I got over the shallow dialogue and readjusted to the serviceable nature of it, it ended up being just fine. That being said, this isn't really RPG dialogue, more like hurdles to get you to the next shooty bang bang.
So, will you let those values... Good enough, I suppose.
I won't spoil story bits, but minor game design spoilers are incoming. Because one major design issue, which made more sense towards the end, is New Game Plus. After the end of the main story, you have the option to start a new game, carrying over your level and skills. The game scales with you to keep it challenging, and the items and ships that you have access to also expands just a bit. So maybe there's a few new things to find around every corner, or briefly small tailor-made experiences switched up here and there. And this new game scaling happens up to 10 times. But that's the problem. Viewing this mechanic more conceptually answers many of the questionable design decisions which confused me from the start. So after reaching the end and realizing what it was, this conceptual failing bled into all other facets of the game for me, outright destroying my desire to engage with certain systems. For example, characters become less interesting because of New Game Plus. There may be alternate dialogues or twists on their stories, but they were already hard to bear before. So running through their stories over and over just to find potential differences was out of the question. Characters at the meta level lose interest, because now you know there's multiple iterations of their characters. Their lives lose what little sense of meaning they had when you didn't know about the intertwined NG Plus story beat. Logistics and outposts also further became useless, because it's all wiped away, meaning there's not much purpose in the homestead experience. Upgrading your powers by repeating the temples was already boring. Do it 100 more times to reach max level and you're a zombie. The lack of enemy types restricts variety, and the uninspired planets refuse to inspire. The New Game Plus system, as it's currently implemented, removes the desire for discovering or doing anything outside of long breaks between playthroughs. Then it's all wiped away. But it got me thinking, maybe that's why these systems are as shallow as they are, so you don't sink too much time into them. Perhaps it's working as intended. If that's the case, then maybe the only way to properly engage with New Game Plus is the long pauses between playthroughs. But if you install mods or updates that might make the previous iterations incompatible, hopefully your New Game Plus isn't compromised, otherwise you'll have to speedrun it again.
Not a well-mannered rescuer, now are you?
Interface continued to be dog shit. One of you guys have said something along the lines of, you kinda get used to it after 100 hours? To that I say, you can get used to anything after 100 hours. If you let me stuff a when you're while I it in your for 100 hours, you'd get pretty used to it too. Also, some of the UI complaints may apparently be mitigated by playing with a gamepad, so mouse and keyboard players, I guess. The gunplay continued to be top-notch, punchy, and satisfying. It continued to improve as the weapons became more diverse. Overall, the random generation of weapons probably had a more positive impact than I'd like to admit. I kinda was against it at first, because we lost out on the hand-placed weapon and item discovery that we all remember. But it ended up introducing me to weird weapons that I normally wouldn't build myself, which made for some fun moments. But not melee, it never improved. But I won't beat a dead horse. Everything space-related became mundane, so I ended up not participating in nearly any combat or travel outside of required events, thus removing the point of it altogether. This became more true whenever I bought the biggest and best ship I could find to help me speed through the forced encounters quicker, and to click my brain off even more. I played it as I felt it was designed, an afterthought. It felt as if traveling in Fallout 4, when you would fast travel back home to do a dump or a quest turn-in, then continue exploring where you left off. Except in Starfield, you sometimes have more interruptions. Oh, here we are. Oh, never mind. Oh. Now, I consider it a serviceable travel method, especially compared to previous titles. Because much of what made Fallout's great, or the Elder Scrolls, was the journey. Those moments when we're traveling from place to place and something catches our eye, so we investigate, leading to a number of memorable, personalized adventures. By having the journey take place in menus and skipping around or loading screens or whatever, means we have to force ourselves to engage with these lesser travel functions just to find the journey. And that's a failure, which leads to the next point. Originally, I complained that the random gen points of interest were soulless. This continued to be true all the way through to the end. It was never able to offer the handcrafted visual storytelling that Bethesda used to create with each location. And once again on NG+, the recreated planet clones, the repeated POIs, and limited enemy design further revealed the sterility of the galaxy. All of these people and locations serve only to slow my transition to the end. And that sense of journey I mentioned earlier, you won't find it here, tucked away in nooks and crannies of the illusion, because New Game Plus and Random Gen both strip away the magic and replace it with algorithms. The immersion never took. I could never get into Starfield. There's probably a decent foundation here, but it needs more love, not more filler. As it stands now, 90 hours later, I'm taking off the helmet, but I still believe that the modding community will supply it with the care it deserves to become worthy of our time. Reading all the comments from my previous video really emphasized where most of the conversation is at regarding Starfield's reception. The game released to mostly positive praise, but fans are shifting more toward the neutral side of the discussion, acknowledging its shortcomings while also coming to terms with what it is. It's certainly not innovative or even creative. Ultimately, what took me weeks to figure out, you guys have known all this time. The answer to the question, is it good? And that answer is definitive. It's been staring me in the face all this time, which is... it's a Bethesda game.